Good evening, everybody. It's
Good
6:30.
evening, Mr. Mayor.
Is everyone there? We can start the meeting.
Sure.
So we'll do a roll call.
Just a couple of reminders if you're not speaking, just hit the mute button so it doesn't have background noise. And when you speak, after the roll call, just identify yourself every time you speak so that the picture can correlate with LTC. I'm ready for the roll. Council Drinkwater.
Yeah.
Council Drinkwater.
Here.
Council Elliott.
Here.
Mayor Leahy.
Here.
Council Mercia.
Here.
Council Noon.
Here.
You are now unmuted.
Council Samaras.
Here.
Council Chow.
Here.
Council Conway.
Here.
All right, I'm present.
Okay. Before we get into the mayor's business, does anybody have a memorial? A moment of silence?
I do, Councilor Noon here, Mr. Mayor. I have one, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Councilor, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, on April 4th, 2020, our community lost a dedicated father, son, brother, and friend when Michael Heath passed away. Mike's sudden passing is a huge loss to his family and the community. He was a humble young man, always prepared to help others, and a rock for his family. Mike was a beloved friend for the Coalition for a Better Acre, CBA. He's always be found at CBA events, volunteering at dinner, neighborhood cleanup, and civic events. So may he rest in peace.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, Rita Mercia.
Yes, go ahead, Rita. Councilor Mercia.
This is a gentleman that didn't live in Lowell, but he did so much to benefit different organizations, and I'm referring to Albert Arthur Daigle Sr., father of 11 grandchildren, father of Andre, Diane, Renee, Nicole, Christine, David, and Caitlin. He just was an unbelievable man. He was named the 1982 Franco-American of the Year by the same organization. He volunteered to serve as treasurer of the Acre Model Neighborhood Organization. I just wanted to bring him up for a moment of silence because he was just a tremendous man in the community. Very active in supporting the Salvation Army, given thousands and thousands of dollars to people in need. So thank you for letting me say that.
Yes, thank you. And I'd like to offer a moment of silence for Beverly A. Conroy, mother of Phil Conroy, retired Lowell policeman. Mrs. Conroy was a lifelong resident of Lowell, passed away peacefully on April 9th, surrounded by her loving family at 88 years old. She was the wife of the late Donald J. Conroy. And as I mentioned, she was the mother of retired policeman Philip Conroy. May they rest in peace. We'll just take one. Sure.
This is Rodney. Could we just also recognize all those individuals that have passed as a result of the coronavirus as well?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Mayor's business, communication, just remote participation. Pursuant to the Government Baker's emergency order modifying the state's open meeting law issued March 12, 2020, meetings will be held using remote participation as follows. Members wishing to speak regarding a specific agenda item shall register and speak in advance by sending email to the city clerk indicating the agenda item and a phone number to call so you may be conferenced into the meeting. Email address is mgeary@lowellma.gov. No access to email If you have no access to email, you may contact the city clerk at 978-674-4161. Yeah, so we need a motion to accept and place on file by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Drinkwater. Need 3, city clerk. Minutes of the city council meeting, March 24th for acceptance. Motion to accept and place on file by Councilor Samaras, seconded by Councilor Noon. 4, auditor's business. Communication. Memo, the memo for FY19 audited financial statement. Need a motion. Well, any questions on that?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, this is Rodney Elliott. Could
Sure.
we refer these audit statements of FY19 to the Finance Subcommittee? Looks like there was some progress made on a lot of outstanding issues, but I think it'll be helpful to have a discussion at a later date.
Okay, motion.
Mr. Mayor, I second the motion.
Okay, motion by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Noon, to refer this to Finance Subcommittee.
Now, if I may, City Clerk here, there's also a response, 6.2Q. Would you want that referred as well, which talks about the audit of financial statements? We could put them both together if it pleases the council.
Mr. Clerk, this is Rodney Elliott again. I was going to refer the next 3 documents, actually, the FY19 audit memo, the 19 financial statement, as well as, as you mentioned, the management letter.
Right.
To the Finance Subcommittee. Thank you.
Okay.
What was that again? On Q, on
6.2Q, and the next one's going to be referred to as well.
Mr. Mayor, this is Rita Mercier.
Sure, Councilor Mercia.
Before that we get into the mayor's, the city manager's responses to the motion, may I suspend the rules to take my motion number 11.1 out of order? The registered speaker must be at work for 7 p.m.
Yes, I just wanted to vote on 4.1 and 4.2 before we get, then we'll go right into yours. So
yes, thank you.
Okay, so auditor's business, we referred that to subcommittee, and that was by Councilor Elliott, second by Councilor New.
So those, both item 4.1 and 4.2 are going to go to the subcommittee, Finance Subcommittee, and also 6.2Q, which is the management letter. That's part of the motion responses, the petition responses. And also at this time, too, we'd probably like to take up the vote for the free cash vote in terms of that. So 7.1.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, this is Rodney. That was part of the 4.2, the certification letter from the auditor relative to free cash. I think this is great news, almost 7.5 million in free cash for the city. We certainly, I'd like to congratulate the administration for conservative projections and keeping, at the same time, keeping spending very tight and being very frugal. So I do think, again, this is it's a good number. It's a great number. We haven't had this number, and in light of the circumstances, we can certainly use it. But it's also, again, a testimony to prudent budgeting and cutting back on any unnecessary expenditures. So I just want to say that before the vote.
Yes, thank you. It was a very good job by the administration to have that number come up this year. A lot of hard work. So 7.1, vote to appropriate $7,462,706 from certified free cash. Permission to waive the full reading, second reading by title and motion. Commonwealth of Massachusetts, City of Lowell, in City Council vote by the City Council of the City of Lowell by 2/3 vote as follows, that the amount of $7,462,706 dollars be appropriated. Roll call?
Need a motion.
Motion by Counselor Elliott and seconded by Roy. Roll call?
Counselor Drinkwater.
Yes.
Counselor Drinkwater. Counselor Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Leahy.
Yes.
Counselor Mercia.
Yes.
Counselor Noon.
Yes.
Counselor Rourke.
Yes.
Counselor Samaras.
Yes.
Counselor Chow.
Yes.
Counselor Conway.
Yes.
8 yeas.
Mr. Mayor, just before we move on,
Yep.
on from the subject, could I just ask Mr. Baldwin a question on the transfer to the General Stabilization Reserve Fund? Mr. Baldwin, we're transferring $1.1 million. I think that's good news to continue to bolster our reserves. Can you tell me what that balance would be in that General Stabilization Fund 8401?
Yes, this is Connor Baldwin here. Through you, Mr. Mayor, there are two separate lines on the transfer sheet that are both going into the same spot. They're delineated because there was a previous appropriation by the council a few weeks back to cover the memorandum of understanding with the police officers. The action of this vote will replenish those funds so that it's a net zero effect on the reserve account. There is also a couple of lines down an addition to the stabilization fund that will bring it close to $12 million, which will be its highest point in history.
Great. That's I thought that the dollar figure was we were around 11, so this brings us close to 12. Again, good work. This helps with our bond rating and our financial positioning. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Baldwin, for that update. Again, it shows our sound financial condition in the city.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Sure, quickly, I just want to get to Rita in a minute. Yeah.
This is Councilor Drinkwater. It sounds like you weren't able to hear me on the vote. I just want
I got you now.
It is yes. Okay.
Yep, I got you.
Okay. Thank you. Motion by Counselor Mercia, seconded by Counselor Noon to suspend the rules. Which, go ahead, Counselor Mercia.
11.1.
Yeah, it's 11.1.
Okay. City Council motion. City Councilor Mercia requests City Manager have parking director develop a plan to allow handicapped residents from the Appleton Mills Apartments to have their first access to the handicapped spaces once the garage is finished, and allow handicapped residents to park in the UMass Lowell lot in the interim. Second, we did a second, yep. So, second by Councilor Noon. Councilor Mercia?
Yes, we do have a registered speaker, and I provided his phone number. Is he going to be able to speak? I'd allow him to speak first.
You're calling, okay. Yeah, we're calling him right now, Counselor.
Okay, so he's going to speak on it. So let me just say, while you're getting the call into him, I received a call from the registered speaker, who is the tenant president, and his concern is the handicapped residents to be allowed to park and have the first access to the new garage when it is built, as well as helping the handicapped residents park at the UMass Lowell lot in the interim. Last week, there was a vote to let use 291 Jackson Street, parcel 5, for the purpose of field office area and parking for construction personnel for wind development. What I am asking for is the use of the parcel left of parcel 5 to be used in the interim for handicapped residents of the Appleton Mills apartment. The people, this gentleman, Steve, will tell you a little bit more about this, but are we able to get him on the line?
Is Mr. Perez there, please? Okay, we're still waiting for a connection, Counselor.
Okay.
We'll give it 1 minute.
Well, this is one of those glitches. Shall I sing? Does anybody want me to sing while we're waiting?
Is he? He's on now. Here we go.
Thank you. Sure, Mr. Perez?
Hello?
Hi.
Yes, I'm here.
Yep, go ahead. Thank you. Just state your name and address for the record, please.
All right, my name is Stephen Perez, 219 Jackson Street in downtown Lowell.
Thank you.
And we already read the motion, and so I did my speech, and you're a registered speaker, so you're allowed to talk about it.
Okay, so I just want to read a brief statement. I know you're very busy. I will be brief. Thank you for your time. As you may or may not know, I'm president of the Appleton Mills Tenant Association, 219 Jackson Street. Our building is a federally building for low-income tenants with an emphasis on local artists. We find ourselves in a position where we are living among three buildings, Block 27, Counting House Block, and Jackson Street, which also houses Mill 5 and the local community charter school. Those buildings pay market price for rent, a far higher price than Appleton's tenants pay. This is important to note because it means that some of our tenants cannot afford premium service, and in some cases that includes buying a monthly garage pass. I'm not here to talk about every tenant. I'm here specifically to discuss the disabled tenants, those with disability park placards. For the past 8 years, we parked either at meters, Parcel 5, also known as the dirt lot on Canal Street. This worked for us. It gave us a place where we could park without draining our meager bank account. Over time, the neighborhood has changed, and our residents feel a little bit lost in the shuffle. Mill 5, 110 Canal, the courthouse is open, the community health center open, Middlesex Community College moved from UMass in the parking, moved from UMass in conference center to the early garage. Now we have half of our metered parking spots on Canal Street closed for construction. Parcel 5 has been approved for staging for more construction. When all of that is open, which of course is not during the COVID-19 lockdown, but when it is, the garage is often full, as are meter spots, and this has created a situation where residents, in particular disabled residents, have nowhere to park. Had one tenant call me asking for help because she is disabled and could not unload her groceries because there was nowhere to park, and when she tried to unload the loading zone, Lowell Fleet Towing threatened to take her car, so she left her groceries on the sidewalk, drove downtown, parked at Market Street, and took an Uber home. You may not know this, but a little over a year ago, we had a series of meetings with former parking director Tobias Marks, and we came to an agreement. He promised to pay Parcel 5 and send it off to make it Appleton Mills parking at a discounted rate. Every time we asked him what the progress was, he said it was coming soon. And then when he left, we found out that this decision he made was not in his purview and actually was not going to happen and was never going to happen. And that left us very frustrated because we worked with him for months on that. I'm almost done. I'm asking you to remember who's living here for the past decade. They're the same people who feel a little bit marginalized in the name of progress which we embrace. To some places like Counting House, it's a simple answer. If you don't like what's going on, is to move. Folks in our building cannot afford to simply move, and we shouldn't have to. We were here first. This is our neighborhood. So I think a simple solution for our disabled tenants, for temporary solution, would be to grant those with valid handicap placards a parking pass to the Canal Street parking lot that is currently being used exclusively by UMass Lowell/110 Canal. The lot is almost always empty or mostly empty and has never been full in the 8 years I've lived here. While I wish a lot could be used for all tenants, I am most concerned with our disabled tenants as they have nowhere to go. I am also asking that when the new garage that is currently under construction is open in the fall, that we can reserve 15, 20 spots, hopefully for free, for handicap parkers who cannot afford monthly passes, as at the rate the monthly pass costs, it almost adds another month's rent that people around here, in our building in particular, cannot afford as can in other buildings. For some, that amount is just too much. We're asking you to remember who we are. We were here first. We are the neighborhood. We will continue to be here, but we need help. We've lost all of our parking, and with more apartments on the way and the COVID-19 lockdown eventually coming to an end, it's only going to get worse. This neighborhood has a parking crisis. Thank you for your time.
Well said. I couldn't have said it better than that. Thank you very much. And I know that the city manager is familiar with this. She was on a particular Wednesday, and I know that Steve talked about it with her on WCAP. So I don't want to have the pattern where we're going to, entertain this and never do anything about it. I don't think it's a very difficult request. I think it's helping people in the community that stuck with the city. After all, that building got all his permits and things to build and remodelize Appleton Mills. But did he address the parking situation? And we're just asking for the handicapped residents to get a little fairer parking area. So thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you very
Mr.
much.
Mayor? Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Councilor Conway, yes.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is, I think it's an excellent motion. I have through you to the city manager. I was wondering with any and all the projects that we have coming up, do we have representation from the Disabilities Commission so that things could be addressed at the very beginning? I think we talked about that a few weeks ago, and I think, matter of fact, when we were talking about the high school project, but I'm talking about any of the projects going forward. Do we, is a representation, or do we consult the Disabilities Commission on that at all?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to the council. Any parking issues do take into consideration handicap parking, so we can get a further explanation on any and all of the projects as they're approved. With regard to the motion, Councilor Mercier is correct. I did speak with Mr. Perez about this, and Terry Ryan has already reached out to the university, so we're very hopeful we can have a solution in the very near term to address some of those issues as far as the Canal Street parking. So we've made contact, and so we're working on that.
Thank you, Madam Manager.
Thank you. All
right.
Councilor Conway?
Yes, I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments? All those? Sure.
Pete Perez here. I've got to go to work. Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mr. Perez. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Thank you. Okay. We get about 9 minutes. We'll start with communications from the manager. Motion responses. Motion A, council is holding multiple elective offices. Councilor Mercier?
I just want to note, I just want to note part of the agenda too. This is on for a home rule petition vote later on in the agenda as well, so.
Right, so I'll be brief as well. Although I realize that going with a home rule petition is a long shot and subject to failure, I ask for a vote on this issue nonetheless. I ask that we just try to see what happens instead of giving up. Should we then take item 7.6 out of order and vote for the home rule petition at the same time right now?
Yes.
All right.
Go out of order.
Yeah.
Okay, so motion by Councilor Mercier, seconded by, anybody out there?
I will. Second.
Sure, thank you. Okay, 7.6. Yep, thank you. Let's see. Vote on home rule petition for city council's restrictions, permission to waive the full reading, second reading by title and motion. Commonwealth of Massachusetts, City of Lowell, in city council vote authorizing the filing of special legislation to clarify and enumerate the office holding requirements for the Lowell City Council. Motion by Councilor Mercier, seconded by Councilor Chow, right? And roll call.
Councilor Drinkwater.
No.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Leahy.
Yes.
Councilor Mercier.
Yes.
Councilor Noon.
No.
Councilor Rourke.
Yes.
Councilor Samaras.
No.
Councilor Chow.
Yes.
Councilor Conway.
No.
5 yeas. Pass, yep.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Mercier.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Let's see, motion response B, residency requirement, Counselor New?
Mr. Mayor, I want to thank City Solicitor Christine O'Connor for a very detailed report, 7-page report. This is really, give us a reason to do this in terms of looking at a possibility of doing residency requirement for public employees. I'm not talking about the one that employ now. I'm talking about in the future. So I would suggest that I would ask that this a report motion respond get sent to the personnel subcommittee to vet this out.
I would second that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, who's that again?
Councilor Rourke.
Okay, so motion by Counselor New, seconded by Counselor Rourke, to send this to the personnel. Okay, any other
Mr. Mayor?
Sure, who's this?
Councilor Rourke again.
Sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I did read the report, and I thought the report was outstanding. But I would just, as the mayor, and what Councilor Noon just said about all future employees, curious if you could bring this to the school committee to see what their thoughts would be as well.
Okay, yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Motion response, sick bank, Counselor Drinkwater.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate this report. And just very quickly, I know it was mentioned in the report that since the last meeting, the Federal Department of Labor has clarified that the Federal Families First Act that provides additional sick days to employees will apply to public employees and municipal employees across the country, including here in the city, which is very much what I was trying to address with this motion. So I thought that was a very important development. And relative to the portion of the response related to sick leave banks within the city, I would just move that be referred to the personnel subcommittee as well.
Okay.
I second that. By Chow, second that.
Yep. So motion by Counselor Drinkwater, seconded by Counselor Chow to bring this to personnel. Thank you. Motion response D, Christian Ave. Counselor Mercia.
Yes, thanks for the report. I know it's tough to put everything on the repaving list, so we'll just have to wait our turn. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Motion response E, citywide spring cleanup schedule. Counselor Noon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Madam Manager, if the city can put this information on the website and share this information with LTC, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor. We will certainly do that on the website and ask LTC to post.
Okay, thank you. Motion response F, yacht waste pickup schedule. Counselor Noon.
Mr. Mayor, same thing as the previous motion. Previous motion response, that is, we can put it on our website so our resident can see it, and also share with LTC so that as often as they can get, so that our residents have those information at hand. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Motion response G, Middlesex Street sign removal. This has been a long time coming. Counselor Elliott.
Thank you for the response. And thank you, Madam Manager. The abandoned signs are going to be removed finally. I hope there's also one more. It has the old Muffler name with the sign, so there's actually 3. It's Ace Muffler. I presume that's also going to come down because they're all on city property. But thank you for the response.
We'll make a note of the 3rd one, Counselor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
This is Councilor Rourke. Since we're on this motion response, I know that we spoke a few meetings ago concerning Middlesex Street. Has there been any signage yet on directing people on how to get to the courthouse?
Madam Manager?
I'm sorry, Counselor. The question in terms of signage on Middlesex Street?
Yeah, maybe, on how to get to the courthouse, the new courthouse. I know we talked about it a few meetings ago, and I also, there was a electronic sign before something for business, and I know, but I just, I know it was brought up to see if we could put a permanent signage, whether it be right or left, come up Middlesex Street.
Right. I'll follow up. I'll talk to the traffic engineer, who she may be on this call, but we'll follow up in terms of where we stand on signage for the courthouse.
I mean, you have plenty of time before we reopen it, unfortunately, but just to put on your radar.
Isn't it the truth? Holy cow.
Yeah. Thank you. Also, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Being 7 o'clock, we're going to go to the public hearing. Ordinance to amend certain sections of 10.3 entitled Hamilton Canal District Form-Based Code. Going to open up the meeting to all those in favor. Okay.
Nobody registered to speak on this matter.
Okay, so any comments in favor by the council?
Yes, I have, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Mercia?
I'm glad that you can distinguish my voice from the gentleman there, so that's a good idea. That's a plus for me.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, through you to the city manager, are you aware of anyone else that has an interest in building a private garage in the vicinity of the Hamilton Canal area?
Thank you, Councilor, through you to the council. I believe DPD has heard from a couple of people. This is not giving, this change doesn't in any way award the parcel to anybody, but I believe DPD has had inquiries from at least one or two other entities.
Yes, I understand what you're saying. I'm aware of Alan Kazanjian, who has an interest in putting one where McKittrick is, which is in pretty close proximity to the Judicial Center. He did acquire and buy that property. It may need a zoning change to do that, but we are not bending over backwards for Mr. Lipoli. We are, as a matter of fact. So here we have a family that was in the city who have given 70 years to the city as a business, and we don't see any balance there. So I feel more parking for building and traffic that is generating more cars should have ample parking. This scenario that I heard about does not appear to be fair. Could I have a full report as to why this is not happening? I think if we have another garage and it's on the Hamilton Canal site, that's fine, but we still have to take into account all the people that will be going to the respective offices, like the Register of Deeds, the District Court, Superior Court, Juvenile Court. There'll be a lot of traffic generated, and I don't see a problem with putting one more. And if the zoning rules have to change, well, we bent over backwards to Mr. Lipoli, and I'm not saying we shouldn't, but I'm just saying we should open our minds and help people that have been with the city for a long time.
Oh, no,
Thank you.
Councilor, I agree with you. My understanding is that Planning and Development has met with Mr. Kazanjian, and this is an exciting project that he's doing right in the vicinity of Hamilton Canal. And I know, excuse me, he did talk about parking. So we can get you a full report on that. But by all means, we have been supportive of his endeavor there. And I think it would be a great addition to the whole Hamilton Canal and the area on the other side of the street. So, but we'll get you that information.
I just want to say I remember back, and I think you were serving with me at the time when we had that big flood, and it went over in Pawtucketville, and it was devastating, and people had to clean out their basements and get rid of all the water-soaked furniture and stuff that they had down there. He provided a lot of his manpower, a lot of dumpsters, he did so much at the time when we needed help the most. I think it would be nice to just see if we could reach out and help him. That's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in favor? In favor? That portion is closed. Anyone, opposed? Opposed? That portion is closed.
If I,
Sure.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to make an indication that item 6.3 is a planning board recommendation, favorable recommendation regarding this ordinance, so maybe we can move it forward and vote on that as well, just to accept it.
Move
6.3.
to accept the report, the report of progress.
Second.
Okay. Roll call?
No, we need a motion.
So moved.
Sure. Motion to adopt by Council Mercer, second by Council Elliott. Roll call?
Council Drinkwater.
Yes.
Council Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Leahy.
Yes.
Council Mercier.
Yes.
Council Noon.
Yes.
Council Rourke.
Yes.
Council Samaras.
Yes.
Council Chow.
Yes.
Council Conway.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Thank you. That brings us back into the communications. Motion response H, illegal dumping by Councilor Noon. Councilor Noon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, the issue with illegal dumping is like a cat and mouse strategy. You know, the people who dumped it, moving from location to locations, and we just sent inspectors to try to clean it up just about everywhere in the cities when there's no one looking. And I think we need to looking at way to address this. Really, I don't think there's the fine, you know, that we have $500 to $2,500, and or the cameras. Some of those hotspots has worked out well at this point. We need to have a multi-pronged approach. That fine, the camera throughout the hotspot, as well as the possibilities of location where people can dump, can drop this off and pay for it, rather than drop it off or dump it illegally at a dark places and stuff like that. So I would ask that through you, Mr. Mayor, that the managers work and her DPD director looking at how other city and town is doing to prevent this illegal dumping, in the future. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Sure. Council Rourke? No?
Yeah, can I take a suggestion? And, it's just, so, and I know that the First Street site is a huge problem with dumping. And
it's
I just maybe...
I'm sorry, it's actually pretty good now that the fence is up there by your cousin, but go ahead.
Yeah, so just a thought is there any thought in maybe talking to the neighborhood leaders in Centerville about maybe clearing some of that area of the brush? Maybe that might, be a reason not to dump, because it'd be more of an open area. And number two, with the cameras would be much easier to see something. And again, maybe if we got in, obviously, the neighborhood to see what they thought about it. If, the thought of maybe clearing the area and making it, all grass heading down, just a thought.
Sure. Thank you. We'll look into that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Sure. Councilor Mercier?
About the First Street that Councilor Rourke was talking about, we were in the process of getting the inmates to do it again, to clear it out again. But with this coronavirus episode, they're not coming out. There is a woman, Midge Landry, who lives in the immediate area. She takes it upon herself to fill 7 and 8 bags at a time. She's unbelievable. So, yes, I know it looks good. I'm very grateful for the fence, but I have an issue with another illegal dumping. The response to this illegal dumping motion lays out the details of this issue, such as the city working with the LPD to file a criminal complaint, and then district court, and the fact that hidden cameras are installed. Additionally, we remember that Councilor Rourke amended the fee ordinance to increase the fines when we are able to determine the responsible party. We know that we generated $50,000 in fines, which I think is good. that's all well and good, but there isn't a time that goes by when I don't hear about St. Hilaire's Car Wash and the trash of carriages, mattresses at the yellow Planet Aid metal box. Now, you can go in there and vacuum out your car and have your car cleaned. People are dumping trash in the barrels there. They're dumping all kind of unsightly things in that metal box. People have no respect for others, but they use it to unload their garbage, all in the name of making a donation. This goes on time after time. The solution is one that is offered in the report, such as more frequent pickups of the donated materials, which appear to always be junk and trash. The report states further that if the materials are not appropriate, we ask the property owner, who incidentally in this respect lives in Boston, to install cameras, and if they don't and the problem persists, we instruct the entities that the bin needs to be removed. To that I say the only way to defeat this constant problem at St. Hilaire's is to have the yellow metal container removed, and that's the end of my story here. Thank you.
Thank you. Sure, Mr. Conway.
Yeah, through you to the city manager. We just talked about the penalty for the illegal dumping and that the fines that were attached to it. Have we actually collected those fines, or were they just given and haven't been collected?
The $50,000. Are you referring to? Yeah, that has actually been collected. That has been brought in as a result of increasing the fines. And the location that Councilor Mercier is referring to is a constant problem. We have been out there, and I think we are hitting that point in the road with this particular site, because it will be cleaned one day and it's trashed within the next couple of days. So.
Right. I think over the last few months, we certainly have talked about a number of different fines for different illegal activities and whether they're actually collected or not. So that's why I just wanted to double check to make sure we actually did get those funds in.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion response I, homeless resource booklet. Councilor Mercier?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the time of this motion, I gave a booklet to the city manager. Do you remember that,
I do.
Manager?
Yep,
I
do.
I asked for more current, up-to-date, because that was perfect, but it was not up-to-date, and I think there's a few more places that could have been added, and I'd like it to be a little bit smaller of a booklet. Now, I received this report that states that the booklet will be distributed to clients in need. I would like a copy of that booklet when it is completed, if I could.
Councilor, thank you. And I did get an update today from Mary Shannon Thomas. A lot of the information in this crisis is not accurate because so many have shut down, but it will be updated and printed, and it will be a small pocket-sized one. So we wanted it to be as accurate as possible, but because some of the services referenced there are not active at the moment, we don't want to have it printed and have individuals looking for it. So, but we will get that booklet to you, and we can do it pretty rapidly and inexpensively once we have the final say on what's going to be in the booklet, so it's accurate.
Thank you so much, Madam Manager.
Thank you. Motion J, vacant, dilapidated properties in the acre redevelopment plan. Councilor Elliott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the memo states, the Economic Development Subcommittee took this up on March 3rd. So thanks for the update. The only thing, Madam Manager, I think at the subcommittee meeting we did request just a list of properties that have been developed and any potential properties that are going to be developed. So maybe we received a report 2 weeks ago, but we will take this up, and as the memo does outline, we'd like to walk the neighborhood to maybe even have a town meeting of some sort with people that live in the neighborhood, because there has been some great progress, but there's still lots to do. So more to come on this in the upcoming months. But thank you for the report.
Thank you. Motion response K, opportunity zones. Councilor Elliott?
No, thank you. Thank you for the report. We spoke about this in the Economic Development Subcommittee, where it still rests. We'll have another meeting on it. But it's just another incentive or opportunity for people to invest in the city and develop properties, which is what we were looking for and will continue to look for sometime in the future. So thank you, Madam Manager.
Thank you. Motion motion L, small business earmark. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you. It's a good report. It is good news, or was good news. My understanding is that 9 fee cuts are perhaps coming as a result of the financial issues affecting all of us, and in particular the state. So while there is a plan in place, I'm sure the manager is hesitant to move forward, knowing that a lot of these earmarks perhaps will be cut. So thank you for the report. Is that your understanding, Madam Manager?
Yes, thank you. We were waiting for, and we did prepare a vote tonight in the anticipation or hope that the money would have been transferred. It hasn't been yet. We don't have any clear read yet what's going to happen with the earmarks that haven't been distributed. So we're keeping close watch. So we're going to hold on that vote since we don't have the money in hand yet. But we'll remain hopeful and optimistic, although I know the state had a economic roundtable today and got advice from many different experts on what's happening in our current fiscal year and what's expected next fiscal year. And as you can imagine, none of it was very optimistic, but still. But we don't have any firm word yet on the earmarks. But we are watching it, and I know Representative Golden is as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before we get to motion response M, can I just remind everybody that if you're able to mute when you're not speaking, you should. And if you're not able to mute, you have to sit very quietly because there's a lot of noise coming through. Motion response M, Lord Overpass Parking, Councilor Mercier.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to thank the city manager for the report. I don't have any further comment, but it was just a thought. Sometimes crazy things could possibly happen, and thought this might have been worthwhile to bring up. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion response M, Rourke Bridge update, Councilor Noon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's the report. The report is detailed. I'm optimistic. I know that it actually was scheduled for April 28th meeting to really update, the council or the city with the, upcoming phase, design phase, and or get the public to engage in this process. So I think due to the COVID-19, I think that date I'm sure will be rescheduled, and I'm looking forward to that. That update report, and I'm sure the resident of Lowell do too, because this 30-year-old, temporary bridge needs to be replaced.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor,
sure.
Through you to the council in response. Councilor Noon, we did speak with MassDOT regarding this, and they are able and willing to present. We understand we're probably not going to be in a live session on the 28th, but they have a slide deck or presentation of the project that they could do even in this format. And maybe then we'll be in a different format in terms of digital. But so they are able to come. It's up to the council, but I believe they will also have a public process. They'll be starting at some point, but this would at least give, I think, residents at least some view of what's happening on this bridge project. So if the council so desires, would keep it on for the 28th.
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Noon here.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, if I said, as Madam Manager indicated, that if the meeting still remain on April 28th, and the slideshow, I would ask, so Mr. Mayor, that if we can share that with the public, through either the LTC, ask LTC to have that slideshow be shown to the resident of Lowell before an eventual public meeting, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Madam Manager.
That was the thought. If they could have the PowerPoint presentation for the council, people would see it before any public meeting, and obviously if there are any questions, and we can continue to ask questions on their behalf. But if that's okay with the council, we'll tell them to get us the PowerPoint ahead of time so everybody has a chance to look at it, and certainly have LTC have it so they can present the PowerPoint on that night.
Thank you, Madam.
Mr. Mayor, this is Rodney Elliott. I concur with Councilor Noon. I think if the consultant is willing to proceed with this, and I have a presentation, I think it's imperative that we continue to move forward on this process, knowing that it is a lengthy process. It's certainly behind by 30 years, so I think it's important that we continue to go through the information and outreach, even during these times, and people can get that information via our website. But so I think it makes sense, Madam Manager, and if they're willing to do that, then I say let's proceed as well. I think it's important, very important.
Yeah, we'll follow up with them and make sure that's the case, and try and get that information.
Thank you. I was just reminded too, so on your phone, you can press the number 1 button to mute and unmute, if that helps everybody. If you have any questions, number 1. Motion response, bicentennial planning, Councilor Noon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The report speaks for itself, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank all those, partners who have worked very hard, leading this project is by our city employees, Harry Merchants, and others, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. We're into informational reports. Madam Manager.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first item under informational reports is in a response or update on the coronavirus response, and we've been posting these on a regular basis and daily, but I will just quickly go through some of the highlights for those who are at home listening as to what is the current status in terms of coronavirus response and preparedness here in terms of the city of Lowell. So today, April 14th, the number of confirmed cases in the city among Lowell residents is 605 cases. The city has published on a weekly basis an enhanced data report to provide as best we can, not just the data in terms of numbers, but information that shows the cases in terms of the age of the individual, the gender, the neighborhood they're living in, as well as the recovery rate, since that was the first time last week that we had that. The point of that informational is to, I think, let people know in terms of our city, this is a virus that many are susceptible to, depending. It's not just for old people that are being contracting the virus. It's all age groups, and in particular, I think 30 to 39 age group, based on the data we've had so far. So we've been expecting, as we've been told by our governor and the state and the federal government, but to expect a surge of cases. Mid-April was expected to be the peak, and that continues to be the expectation. I believe the date given for a peak is April 20th, so we are approaching that. And our numbers reflect the increased cases. Let me just briefly talk quickly about our health department. Again, I cannot say enough about the health department. They've been working 7 days a week, nonstop, trying to trace all of these cases as well as all of the contacts. They take the information daily from the state Department of Public Health. There are protocols that they must follow and implement in terms of contacting each person, either those who've tested positive or anyone who's had a contact with them, and they have been doing an outstanding job. This is very, very important, and in order to accomplish that, the city's school nurses have been redeployed to support the health department, and beginning last week, there were 26 school nurses that have been reporting to help in that regard. Most recently, there was a Partners in Health nonprofit organization that was formed, and this was a collaborative with the state to bolster contact tracing efforts. And they have contacted the city and have been helping as well. So it is a very time-consuming and laborious effort. But the health department, under the direction of Joanne Keegan, has just been doing an outstanding job. Quickly on the homelessness issue, we've been working closely with the state, with the Department of Public Health, with MEMA to address issues among our homeless population. One of the developments working with them is that the state has set up a hotel and will be setting up others where if a homeless individual has tested positive for the coronavirus, they are transported to this hotel. Currently, it's in Lexington, where the state has a complete setup complete with nursing care, food, shelter, all of that until the individual recovers and tests negative. An important piece of trying to treat people who, though maybe they don't require hospitalization, do need to isolate. And given the fact that they don't have that ability in their living conditions, this is a much, much needed assistance from the state. And they, as I said, will be opening up other locations. But right now we are sending individuals to the hotel in Lexington. Transportation is provided by the state, and it's a whole process that has been worked out. We also have worked in combination with MEMA, with the Lowell Transitional Living Center, with the Lowell Community Health Center, and of course the City of Lowell to set up a space in the Stockalosa School for those who, though not tested positive in the homeless population, but had contact of some sort from someone who may have tested, who did test positive. That is in the process of establishing. We had working with MEMA and our own staff have set that project up. We're working now with the Transitional Living Center, who will be overseeing the staffing, as well as the Lowell Community Health Center. The city's participation, obviously, as I said, is providing the school as a basis, as well as providing monies through grant monies in order to pay for the staffing, so long as it's needed. In addition to providing that, we will also be providing cleaning services and the like. And so it's not open for business yet, but it is standing ready for the Transitional Living Center to work out the staffing issues. As you all know, the rapid testing site opened on April 6th. They've been processing generally about 1,000 tests a day, and the state and the city partnered with CVS to make that happen. Again, this is an important piece because we see the increased testing here in the city, which is so important in order to determine the number of individuals that have actually been infected with the COVID-19 virus so that we can work toward containing the transmission. On the front of social distancing and the public access, like many communities, our city parks and recreational areas are important, but they do attract groups that are not social distancing. It's been a challenge, and as a result, the city did have to block off basketball hoops and remove some tennis nets because of the just the risk of spread of the virus, and the police continue to watch for these spots. Again, not to be punitive, but we don't want people to be putting themselves or others in harm's way by not social distancing. In terms of our operations here, City Hall and city buildings are closed to the public, but we are staffing all offices fully and remain in full business mode. We've also had people who have worked for the city that have gone to remote working at home, again, working with MIS to make that happen, in order to provide sufficient social distancing, which is required under the essential services order from the governor. But we have been, luckily, very successful in continuing to provide all city services, albeit under different circumstances. So we've also been able to secure, through a partnership with Lowell Makes, and by planning and development, some 3D printed PPE, or personal protection equipment masks, and are in the process of distributing those as well. Our Economic Development Office is continuing to work with the business sector. The Chamber of Commerce has set up a business recovery task force and is reaching out to our small businesses to try and help them through the process, whether it's through the stimulus programs or others, and trying to keep them vital and afloat during this very difficult time. First responders, again, our number one concern in this. Public safety is number one in terms of this outbreak. Police and fire department have implemented heightened precautions for their protection and protection of the workforce, so critical to all of us. We have been lucky enough to obtain sanitation devices of the workspaces. That's been accomplished by some companies who have volunteered to regularly sanitize the workspaces of both police and fire, and as well as the vehicles, including the fire trucks. And machinery the school department had loaned to us was also used, a fogging machine, again, to try and keep the workspaces sanitized and free of any virus or anything that could infect any of our first responders. We did sign an MOU with the Marriott over in the Highlands to provide space for our first responders if they tested positive and wanted to isolate away from their families. This is a concern. We haven't had that occasion yet, thank God, but it is a concern among first responders that if they were positive, they may be concerned about exposing their families, and so this would be an opportunity for them to have isolation, and we do have a contract to provide that in a hotel here in the city. And let's see, what else? We give updates daily on all information for residents, and so whether it has to do with news items, we share that as readily and transparently as we can. We publish on our Facebook page. We publish on our website, and people can go to the website under coronavirus for the most up-to-date information. Also on Twitter, as well as distributing information to media, be it the Sun newspaper, WCAP, and other media outlets. So I think that's it. I'm trying to do it as quickly as possible, but that's a snapshot of the update as to where we are today in the city.
Thank you. And then just, sure, any questions?
Mr. Mayor, go ahead. Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Sure. I couldn't tell who was first, so Councilor Conway, maybe?
Actually, I did leave out one piece. I apologize.
Sure.
And that is the Surge Center at the UMass Recreation Center. Again, working with the hospital, with the university, and our own EOC team. There is a Surge Center that is underway right now. That will be for patients from Lowell General in the event they're needed for patients who are not as acute but still require some hospitalization. And so that's expected. As I said, it's under construction and would be 90 beds, again, providing us a good, solid structure or for the infrastructure of the medical needs of the Lowell community. Sorry, I missed that one.
That's all right. So from what I heard, we'll go Councilor Conway, Councilor Samaras, Councilor Noon, and then we'll go on from there.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will say that, Madam Manager, through you to the manager, it is such an inclusive report, and I think that both you and your team and the city itself is, we're facing a Herculean task here, and the way that you people have put this together and the plan involved, I certainly congratulate you. I'm certainly not going to go over what you just said, but the fact is, I just want to point out a couple of things. That the whole idea of the rapid testing site, I think, is going to be extremely important, and I'm glad that we have that up and running. I mean, a great partnership with CVS and the state and our city. Also, I do want to congratulate the health department and Joanne Keegan for doing an incredible job, and again, all your staff stepping up to the plate too. One of the other things that stood out when you talked about the economic development too, we're talking about the health of the people in the city and the health of the city itself, and that, of course, is that when this finally does open up and we, our businesses, our small businesses are going to need some help and some guidance and some support. And I'm glad that your office is reaching out to that. I will ask. I'd like to find out about the city buildings that we have, because when this finally does open up, and we're going to have staff going back into those buildings and even our school buildings too, and I'm sure you've reached out to the school department. Can you just talk a little bit about the buildings itself and what we're actually doing for preparation, so when that magical time comes that we will be opening those doors, that we will, that the public, the employees, kids, and so forth will feel safe going into them?
Sure. Though our the city buildings, for instance, City Hall, Planning and Development, the police, fire, as well as other buildings, though they're not open to the public, they are open to employees, and we are regularly cleaning these buildings as we go through each and every day. And we will continue to do that, Counselor, and make sure that we're utilizing what's necessary in order to keep people safe and healthy. We are in the process of obtaining, again, masks for people who want them or need them. There's certain departments that we've been working with who've requested them, and so we're doing our very best to provide those items as well as implementing, the social distancing protocols at every level in every department, and a number of other tools that are being recommended and used both by our health department and the CDC in this endeavor. As far as the schools, my understanding is the schools have purchased the equipment, fogging equipment, in order to sanitize schools, and I've spoken to the superintendent, and I'm sure they are utilizing or will be utilizing those to make sure before any students come back that the schools have been thoroughly cleaned. That would be my expectation.
Okay, thank you, and I appreciate that. And just one other quick statement. The city council was a team. Obviously, we want to support you in any way in your department, how we can. Is there anything that the city council can do at this point that we haven't done that could perhaps make things easier for your team in any way at all?
Thank you for the question, Councilor. I think the City Council has been amazingly supportive of the efforts here in the city, and the entire team in the city has been working together. I want to credit the EOC management team that every single day is working. Chief Windward, Chief Richardson, Joanne Keegan, the law department, Christine O'Connor, Kara Keefe Mullen, the assistant manager, myself, Phil Jeffroy. This is an everyday, all hands on deck, as well as all of our other department heads. I can't say enough about how much everybody has stepped up to the plate and has brought their expertise. And of course, George Rose, who has done an outstanding job at EOC, and Paula Chance as well, working with him.
Well, I know that everyone certainly appreciates everything that is done working through this, through these very, very difficult times. So again, thank you, and thank your team for all you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Samaras?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And again, thank you, Madam Manager, for all the work that you and your team are doing. We know it's not easy. We know it's long hours, and we know it's 24/7. And that's well appreciated by the City Council. One of the issues that I've had calls on, we're a city outside of Boston that right now is showing that we've been significantly impacted by this coronavirus. I mean, our numbers are higher than most of the communities in the state, and climbing higher. Now, the last time when Dr. Weston was here from Lowell General Hospital, I asked a question about ventilators, and that's a question that's been asked of me by many senior members of the community, because Dr. Weston has alluded to the fact that if we didn't have enough ventilators, that they would develop a protocol to deal with, the issues as to who can have these and who can't. And that's something that we do not want to be part of. But have you seen, do you feel at this point, or can you get the information as to, can the hospital handle the expected numbers of problematic patients they'll have? And if they can't, if they don't have enough equipment, are we in the process where we can borrow it from other hospitals in the state? Because when you look at some of the comments that have been made statewide and nationally, this has been a common talk, and the common talk has been that they've been able to bring in the proper number of the sufficient amount of equipment to make sure that their people are okay. And this is something that you can imagine many seniors in this community are fearful of. So I don't know if you can answer the question now, or is this something that you could present us with as to the preparedness regarding those steps?
Yeah, thank you. I had a call with the hospital today. I have another call with the hospital tomorrow. I think they feel very confident that they are able to handle this. Obviously, they're very grateful that there is the surge unit that in the case that they need it, it is there. But so far, what they told me today, based on those in the ICU, based on the positive cases, the hospital is able to handle that and has enough ventilators, not just for those who are currently patients, but if there is any surge. So they are monitoring this very, very closely. But I think the numbers that they're seeing, they are seeing an increase in numbers in terms of admissions, but not something that they are not capable of handling. And that includes patients on ventilators.
All right, thank you. So, but do they have a policy, or is there something in place where it's been indicated in other states that there would be an exchange of equipment if necessary?
We in what happens is certainly working with the state. The state is putting out calls. I know the hospital did order new ventilators and took delivery of them recently from a local company, so that was a good thing. But they do feel confident that they have, at least when I spoke with them, they're doing everything to make sure they gear up for any surge. But so far they have more than enough ability to handle what's coming their way.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Noon, I think it was.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Madam Managers. I know the council, I heard Councilor Conway, Councilor Samaras. I know all the councilors share, the feeling that you have done an outstanding job in bringing all the partners together to combat this COVID-19. Thank you, Madam Manager. And please, could you please summarize for us, maybe for the viewer, for the resident, the city effort in partnership or the partner to flatten the curve, and also share with us our capacity to protect the health and well-being of our residents. I know you touched on a couple of things. Could you please do that again?
Sure. I mean, one of the most powerful things in terms of flattening the curve is having people stay home and whenever possible, and when they do go to a grocery store or they go to a pharmacy, now there's a very strong recommendation that they wear a face covering. If they don't have they don't have to have an N95 mask or even a surgical mask, but could be a cloth mask or something that they put on and put together themselves. We're trying to help people who are asking for those masks. That's very important, and that is part of flattening the curve. As I said, with our own employees, we are making sure there's social distancing and making sure that there is good hygiene in practice in terms of making sure we're not spreading virus. I think the other part that's been very, very important is paying attention to those populations that could sustain a surge. For instance, the Lowell Transitional Living Center, we've been working very hard to try and provide the space, as I said, whether an individual needed isolation or they needed quarantine, and that's what we're about working on this week. Again, to try and keep any spread or epidemic size spread of the virus contained in as best as we can. We have had an incredible partnership with the state. The governor's team has been amazing. They have regular calls. Lieutenant Governor Karen Polito is on the calls, keeping us up to date on everything that the state is doing. There has been a great sharing of information, as well as with Secretary Sutters at the Department of Public Health. They have been there working with us, whether it's certain things that we need, swabs at one point, a number of things that they've been ready, willing, and able to help us with, especially around trying to set up this surge hospital, as well as the need for homeless assistance. They have been partnering with us, and I think that's very, very important. And MEMA, we have our own team who does an incredible job, and I have to say the fact that folks like George Rose and those have contacts with MEMA, they're able to get through and get information and get much needed supplies. We're able to try and share those. Our public health department has been sharing supplies, including masks, gowns, gloves, especially with our nursing homes in the city who have been in need of these, and we are contacting them through the public health nurses and getting them what they need. And so it really is an all hands on deck, and I think having an ecosystem here, whether it's that type of partnership and sharing, whether it's the fact that we have, the partnership with a hospital here that is able to care for people when they're ill, and we have an overflow space so that there's not the fear that someone would have to go and need a bed but can't get a bed. That's a big fear for people. We know now that we're, I think, doing everything in our power to make sure we can care for their needs. And as I said, in terms of the homeless and so forth. The schools, have been closed, and that's been a big point. And then the social distancing in terms of recreation. There's an encouragement from the governor's office that people go out and take a walk, but don't have a basketball game. Don't gather in big crowds. And so far, knock on wood, I think the people of the city have been very mindful and respectful of that. But the police department has been carefully monitoring conditions around the city. The fire department continues to, engage in not just answering calls, but being out there and trying to be helpful in terms of this crisis. So I think it's all things working together, Councilor.
Thank you, Madam Manager. Mr. Mayor, I also just want to note that while practicing social distancing, a lot of our residents, I know at least half a dozen is out there making masks and distributed to the first responders, and this is awesome. I mean, people come together, and we will get through this together. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, thank you.
Mayor?
Mr. Mayor. Sure. I had Councilor Rourke, then Councilor Chow, and Councilor Mercer. Councilor Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Madam Mayor, just a couple of questions. The first one concerning the Stark Wilson School.
Yeah.
What went into the decision to use a school?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that, Councilor.
What went into the decision making to choose a school?
Well, that was primarily working with the state. They were urging us to use a school building. We didn't have another building. That's what other communities have been utilizing as well, is schools, Worcester, Salem, Lynn, and so forth, because the kids aren't in school. And so we were looking for an option of where can we put homeless who need to quarantine, obviously where they don't have a home or a room that they can quarantine in. So, again, it was working with MEMA and the Department of Public Health that they urged that. And then, we spoke with the school department as to choosing, in their advice, something that would be close to the Lowell Transitional Living Center, because they would be providing not only supervision but meals, because it's an extension of the Transitional Living Center.
Sure. So, and I know it may be a slim chance, but is there a backup plan if the students do return on May 4th?
I had that conversation with the state folks, Counselor, and that was my first question. May 4th seems around the corner. Obviously we can't have people in there if the students are back. And I was assured that if there is any need for these type of facilities in the schools in the state, children will not be coming back. So
okay.
That's what I was assured, even though they didn't give me a date or anything, but that's what I was assured. So that was my first question to them.
Okay, then with regards to the school, obviously the homeless population, could be transient, and a lot of reasons why, what I deal with is there's a lot of underlying drug and alcohol issues involved. So what is that? Are they being searched when they enter the school? Like, do we know that drugs and or alcohol, and more importantly, paraphernalia, will not enter the school?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, so you can see the reasons why, right?
Sure.
God forbid, in a month or in 6 weeks, a fifth grader, finds, either remnants of drugs or a needle or something like that. And I understand that, we're going to clean the place and so forth. But it's just, just a concern that I had when I first heard that we're going to use a grammar school as a place. And look, we need to find a spot to put our homeless population. I totally get that, but it's just the concerns of what could happen.
Yeah, no, very good points, and those are concerns that we've talked to the Transitional Living Center as well in terms of how this would be maintained, and so they have a protocol as far as, and they will share that with us. They have shared us with that. I don't have it finalized from them, but these issues have been raised in terms of drug or alcohol, whether an individual would be able to be part of this, and that would not be the case if that was their situation. The other part of it is, Counselor, that if someone is quarantined, they can't leave. They have to stay. If they leave, they can't come back. And so it's a little bit different than the shelter situation where people come in at night and then leave and come back or not. This is a very specific purpose. Will be supervised, will be fully staffed, and the individuals would have to stay. And we don't expect there to be large numbers. Hopefully, really a handful. So it's going to be well staffed and observed.
Okay, and then there's something that we talked about over the weekend, nursing homes, rehab centers in the city.
Right.
So is there any update on that?
The public health department has been speaking with all of the nursing homes, as I mentioned, in terms of what they need for PPE, and they've been contacted, every single one, have also delivered materials to every single one of our nursing homes. To some extent, the National Guard has been in some of the nursing homes doing some testing, and in terms of the staffing, our public health is talking to them on a regular basis, trying to find out where do they stand, do they need any help, what is the status. So it's a big concern in the nursing homes. Obviously, we've seen it in throughout the state and that many times there's a high incident of people with infection in a nursing home. And so that is something that we're talking to them every single day. My understanding is the Department of Public Health has been in contact with some of them as well.
Do we know what happens? So if a person that's in a rehab or a nursing home, that person tests positive for the virus, are they quarantined within the building? Do other patients find out about it? How does that work out?
My understanding, Counselor, is that depending on the nursing home, they have some of them have sections where if someone is positive, they are quarantining or isolating them where possible. We've tried to get that information in terms of what's happening, but I do believe that's the protocol. Is if they have the ability, they try and isolate them in a separate section of the building. I don't know if that happens in every nursing home, though.
Yeah, and I know you're busy with a ton of things. Just, if by chance we could grab that eventually, a lot of people that live in the city have family that are at these places, and I think that would be helpful. And at some point, we can get that information.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, as we had talked about, there is a hotline for the families that the state has set up. You can even get it through just dialing 211. But if you look on the website for nursing home and families under the Department of Public Health, there is a hotline, and it's 24/7. So if you have concern about, I'll try and come up while we're on this phone call with that number, Counselor, but if you have concern about a family member or whether they're, you want to speak to someone at the state, you can call this hotline at any time. And rightfully so, people do get worried. Here's the number, 617-660-5399. And we'll put this on our website. But it's a family resource hotline for nursing homes. And I think it's important that families know they can reach out to the state to talk about their particular family member if they have concerns.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Chow, then Councilor Mercia, then Councilor Drinkwater. Councilor Chow.
This is Sakari Chow. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Madam Manager. I want to commend you and your management team for working above and beyond during this crisis. I know you're working weekdays, weekends, weekend nights as well to answer all of our questions. I also want to thank all the city staff for being very patient and very understanding of what's going on with the residents in the city. A lot of anxiety from everybody, and everyone is working so well to try to keep the situation as calm as possible. And I want to thank you for your comprehensive report on the health situation in the city. I just want to make a couple of comments, and one is regarding to the Stocklosa School again. I don't want to belabor it, but I also want to thank the staff of the Stocklosa School, the principal, and the families as well for being very understanding. This is a time where we really have to work together, and Stocklosa really step up and trying to help the community. I know there is a selection process in determining which school location to go to and so forth. My concern is during when the school is being used and after. So during when it's being used for the homeless shelter, are the school staff expected to work during the situation, or will it be staff from other organizations like health professionals and what have you? That's one aspect of it. And the second is the school is being used for the students to have many different areas with their technologies or it's a big space. I know that only the gymnasium is being used for their sleeping quarter. The residents, the homeless residents, will they be able to walk around the school to go through different parts of the school as well during their stay? And the third part of it, Stocklosa is doing a lot for the community by putting their school, their staff, and in the future will be their students when they return, whether it will be in the fall time or later. I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of sanitization, a lot of cleaning up. There's going to be issues with the school. Will the city additional resources to manage? I'm sure there's going to be some issues and problems coming up. Will they be receiving some kind of additional resources to take care of what's going on for the next few weeks or a couple months?
Okay, I think I have the questions in order. If I miss anything, Counselor, just let me know. In terms of the staff, the school staff will not be staffing this facility for the homeless that need to be quarantined. It will be staffed by the people from the Lowell Community Health Center, medical people from Lowell Community Health Center. It will be staffed by people from the Lowell Transitional Living Center, who obviously understand, the needs of a facility of this nature. As I said, the individuals who would be there are being quarantined and will not be positive. Anybody who's tested positive for the virus. They would not be allowed to walk around the school. They would be contained to the area of the school. There's the cafeteria and the gymnasium, which are right next to each other. That's it. They could not be out and about walking in the school. In terms of cleaning the school, that's something that, again, school personnel will not be required to do in terms of these sections. That will be done by a private company, as well as sanitizing the school once it's no longer needed for any purpose in connection with this crisis or coronavirus quarantine. So I think I answered those, but the point I think that's very important because is that these individuals would not be in the school when student and faculty are, period. If student and faculty are coming back, this facility would no longer be there. That's been clear from the get-go. It would be thoroughly cleaned and thoroughly sanitized professionally as well. These individuals will not be those who tested positive for the virus. And even if someone is symptomatic but hasn't tested positive, in other words, has a cough or has a fever, they would be removed and sent to the Lexington Hotel. So this is really a precaution to watch people to make sure they haven't contracted the virus. If there's even a symptom of the virus, they will not be there.
Okay, and the last point was on the Stocklosa again. At the end, will I'm sure it's going to be some kind of wear and tear, or it's going to be some issue that can come up. What the school be receiving, they need it. For example, damage to the gymnasium
if
floor.
If there was any kind of damage whatsoever, it has to be restored. We are also adding some improvements that they had been asking for, and so that will be a work in progress as well. But it would absolutely not result in any damage if there was anything done. It would be completely restored and hopefully improved for the school.
Wonderful. And I also want to commend you on bringing the rapid COVID-19 testing to the city. I know it's open to all Massachusetts residents, but by having it at the Lowell Showcase Cinemas parking lot, that's really in our backyard, and anybody from any town or city can come for testing. But it makes it easier for our Lowell residents. The only thing I want to make a comment on that is I tried to look on our city website, maybe I missed it and so forth. Are there any hours posting on their operations as what time they open to what time they close? And then how many days a week? Would it be 7 days? And for how many weeks and so forth? Has that been confirmed at all?
So it is 7 days a week, although, for example, with the weather, was it yesterday? The days I can't remember, but the inclement weather yesterday, it was closed because of the rain and high winds. It was limited or shorter hours on Easter, on Sunday. But by and large, it's open 7 days a week. I believe it's from 8 to 6. I can check on that, but it's by appointment, and you go to the CVS website, type in, I think it's cvs.com, look for the testing site. There are 3 states. You pick Massachusetts, and then you would go and you'd answer a number of questions. This does not require a doctor's referral. And then if you met the certain criteria, then I believe that at that point they show you what slots are open for appointment. So it is by appointment.
Sure, thank you. And but the last point is, again, a great job and trying to bring along the Marriott to have for our first responders who are tested positive to be isolated from their families. My question, how about some first responder workers, they have small children, or they might be living at home with vulnerable members of the family, and they don't have an option. They don't want to wait till they are tested positive to be isolated, but they don't have an option. They don't have anywhere else to go stay with. They don't have the basement to go live with. I know that many of the nurses, they separate themselves voluntarily from the family, even though they are currently healthy. Are there any facility, for example, like Marriott, that would give the first responders that option, say if they have infants in the family, or again, elderly in the family, but they want to separate themselves now while they're still healthy? They don't want to risk, because it takes some time for the virus to become symptomatic. They don't want to wait till they find out, and then by that time, their family might be infected as well. Mm-hmm. Have you looked into the option where first responder can isolate themselves, or a place for them to do it if they wish to?
As far as nurses, I don't know whether the hospital has done anything with regard to any healthcare providers. As far as our first responders, there hasn't been discussion around that issue, Counselor. I mean, mainly around if they contracted the virus. We could certainly discuss that, but that hasn't been part of the discussion. In terms of the putting people into a place so that they could isolate while they're working. But we could the discussion.
Sure. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Councilor Mercy, then Councilor Drinkwater.
Yes, thank you very much. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the city manager, I have a question and a comment. Madam Manager, if a person goes to the cinema from a surrounding town and they test positive for the virus, does that tally for the positive results go in under Lowell or their respective town?
No, it would go to their respective town.
Oh,
so
okay, that's good.
the site would notify the state through the system that the state utilizes, and then the state would notify that town.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Because I got a call from this woman, and she wanted her brother-in-law to be tested, and she had been calling 3 days in a row, and they said that they had reached 1,000, and that was the cutoff. You'd have to call another time. She called 3 days. I almost called you to see if there was a way we could get this man in, because the sister-in-law, which was the woman that called me, said that her brother-in-law seemed pretty sick with that. So I said, well, today is Easter. I don't know how many people would be in line. I don't think 1,000 people would. Why don't you just give one more call today? So I was about to call you when the phone rang, and the lady said his appointment is 12:30. So he did get in, and he did test positive, but he was from Westford. And I said, is that tally going to go to Lowell or to Westford? But anyway, that was my concern. Thank you for that answer. Now, people can be tested if they're elderly or if they have chronic problems or conditions such as diabetes or heart disease or emphysema. There are young people who have severe fatigue. It is now being reported that up to 50% of the people testing positive for the virus can be asymptomatic, and the only symptom was extreme fatigue. So my comment is, we can't forget about people that feel that they have a symptom, but it isn't all of the symptoms, and they're not fitting into a category of elderly or heart disease. And so I just wanted people to be aware of that and see if, I know chronic people should be seen first, but there are those that are positive that don't really have the symptoms. Judge Stephanopoulos or whatever, he was one. So
right.
So I just wanted to make that comment. But here's another comment here. How do we prepare for this? How does a person want to be city manager and know how to prepare for this? So I wanted to say you're doing a tremendous job, and everybody that is the team, EOC, Joanne Keegan, everybody, your staff. This is a tremendous pandemic, very frightening to people. And so I just want to thank you for being right on top of it and hitting every challenge with this pandemic. So thank you very much, and thank you for the report. Keep up the good work, Eileen.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you. Councilor Drinkwater.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to Madam Manager. In relative to the rapid testing site, I know in addition to our testing site in Lowell, there are a couple other in partnership with CVS throughout the state that are particularly targeted to first responders and other essential employees to be given priority for tests. Is there any preference given to first responders from the city or even other essential employees? I know some of the other sites have actually extended that to retail workers like grocery workers, but rather than have first responders from Lowell have to travel to another site, is there any preference given? And I know there's also kind of a high bar for being symptomatic in terms of pre-registration to qualify, but given the level of exposure for first responders and other essential employees, is there any way for them to potentially get in there for tests without experiencing some of the symptoms that the general public might?
So I think, Council, we've been trying to work it out with CVS to accommodate our first responders. I believe that they either through a contact or exposure, for instance, as could happen, that they're able to be tested if there's a known contact or exposure. I'm not exactly sure. I know they have to register online. It's just a question of going through that process as far as the CVS site here. I know, as you mentioned, there's a couple of other sites for I believe for just first responders, where ours is to the public at large. And I think one is in Foxborough, one is in Shrewsbury. And that's a different test. It's not the quick test. It's the traditional test that takes either 24 or 48 hours. And you know, in the early days, we did send some folks there. So, but I do believe there has to be some symptom in order to get tested, or some reason for the test.
Yeah, and I have heard, just anecdotally speaking, that, you know, people who have gone into pre-register through CVS have not been approved, I think, because they didn't have, you know, the specific symptoms, and I understand that's a necessity. But given, I think, the particularly sensitive nature of the work that first responders and other essential employees are doing, I think it, you know, may be appropriate, and I'm glad to hear the conversations happening to, you know, allow them to be able to potentially take a rapid test, even if they're not experiencing the certain symptoms that are, you know, required for the general public to get in. Additionally, I thought it was a very positive development that the health department has been reaching out to nursing homes in the city and offering and delivering protective equipment. I think, given, you know, where we were and the scramble to get that equipment just a few weeks ago, I think that's a really heartening news to know that we're able to offer that. And in the coming weeks, hopefully, if things continue to improve and you know, in partnership with the state, are able to hopefully secure more. Is there any thought to potentially expanding that and potentially having the health department reach out to other employers, you know, that are putting essential employees to work, even retail workers? I've noticed that there are a number of retail workers here in the city that are working without masks and other protective equipment, and I understand that's probably due to the shortage. But in the weeks to come, is there any thought to being able to expand that and potentially offer it to other employees in the city as well?
We haven't had the conversation. I certainly will talk. I know right now you know, there's a better flow, but it's not as robust as one would want. So, but you know, we could try and see if the production becomes more readily available, whether there's an opportunity for the city to somehow make things available to others. I do know that, you know, again, for, you know, not so much first responders, but others, you know, using cloth masks or doing something is better than nothing, is what, you know, we're being told. You know, so people could use, you know, make their own, or and it's not perfect, but it's better than having no protection, is what we're being told. But we can look into it. Right now, though, there wouldn't be that ability, just based on quantity. Right now, you know, we're looking at trying to deal with those who are, as I mentioned, our own departments, as well as the hospital at one point, and the nursing homes, and the like, those who are working with the really sick population.
Absolutely, and I think that's very much understandable. Just kind of thinking optimistically that in the course of hopefully a couple of weeks, when there might be more equipment available, just a suggestion to keep in mind other private employers in the city where their employees might be seeking out this sort of equipment as well.
Right.
So thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And you're all set, Councilor Elliott, or?
Just briefly, Mr. Mayor, thank
Sure.
you. Madam Manager, in the rapid testing, how long is that facility planning on remaining open in Lowell for testing? Is there a deadline, or is it?
There isn't at the moment, Councilor. When we entered an agreement, it was I think for 2 weeks to just make sure this was going to be okay and this was going to work out. I think ideally what CVS wanted to do was have 6 to 8 weeks of testing, and that's working with the state. So we haven't gotten an exact date yet back from the state. We'll reach out. As I said, I know the first 2 weeks we were trying to sort through and figure out how it was going to work. But for some reason, I'm, and again, it depends on the state of the virus too, I'm sure, but I think there was talk about 6 to 8 weeks as a possible outside.
That's the expectation at this point. Okay, that's good news, because there was some level of uncertainty that testing was going to go away at some point in time. Secondly, has Joanne Keegan of the Health Department, have they received or you received any information regarding any potential surge here in the city? I know the governor has sort of predicted the April 20th, but it's not consistent across the state nor across the nation. So is there any expectation that we're of the surge potential in Lowell?
No, we're the only dates that we're operating under are the dates that we're getting from the Department of Public Health, which I assume are the same that the governor has. We don't have any other inclination. As I said, every day we monitor, what happened, from the day before. Everything that we're seeing is pretty consistent with what we expected in terms of increased numbers. We've had a little dip when the site was closed, which again was expected. But not as big a dip as I thought it would be. So, with the site being down yesterday. So.
Okay. Well, the more testing, the more cases, which makes sense. But the death toll has not dramatically increased in this city, which is good news. It's sobering. Also, so that's good. And I just wanted to touch on the nursing homes a little bit. It's good to know that there is more oversight. It's kind of unfortunate and disappointing that we have 9 nursing homes in the city, and to me, nursing homes across the nation seem to have been neglected. And more oversight, more testing, more help in these nursing homes. I mean, right down the street here in Pawtuckaville, there were a number of deaths in Northwood. Those are, according to your report, these are, the oversight is with the state. Can the local health departments, health inspectors lay more of a role to ensure that protocols are being adhered to, health conditions are at the greatest, at the best that they can be, or what can we do? Because 3,800 deaths across the nation just in nursing homes, or a population, as you mentioned, that is clearly more at risk than anyone. It's very sad.
Right. So what has been? So the state is the one who inspects. They license, they inspect, and the ones, the Department of Public Health has jurisdiction over the nursing homes. I will say that I know the hospital, and on our call today, the hospital has been reaching out to all the nursing homes. Joanne Keegan, her public health nurses have been reaching out to all the nursing homes. So I think there is a good dialogue going on among our local medical community as to what their needs are, and so forth. And I think the Department of Public Health has also been weighing in. So, but we don't have the jurisdiction to go in and inspect at a local level, but we have a very good open rapport and dialogue with them from what I'm seeing and hearing, and I think that's good. And there seems to be an openness about, trying to get help and trying to strategize as to what the needs are. And the hospital's very involved in that too, because they want to make sure, that if care can be given sooner rather than later, that happens,
So the National Guard was, in my understanding, was down at the nursing home down the street. Are they paying attention to the other 8 nursing homes, or?
So I think what I heard is that they were in a couple of the nursing homes. I'm not quite sure, how they're deciding where to go and test, but we're trying to follow up on that as well to find out if they're going to continue. Are they going to all nursing homes? What is their game plan here in the city?
Okay. So. Well, hopefully the state's going to be a little bit more proactive when it comes to these facilities for a population that really is at the mercy of the care that they receive. So thank you for the update.
And I do have another update, which is so the testing site's been going on out there, but we were told recently they think it's 2 more weeks. So who knows? That was something that I was just texted. So I'll keep you posted, but it might be 2 more weeks out there.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So just informational construction projects, Madam Manager?
Yes, I believe Christine Clancy and Natasha are on the phone. I'd turn it over to them to give a quick update, or if people have questions. Christine or Natasha?
Hi, this is Natasha. I am available. Essentially the construction update memo just explains what's going on with the construction projects within the city. In addition, the specifics guidance that the state has provided with regards to COVID-19. All construction projects, for the most part, are considered essential, and they are continuing. For horizontal projects, that's a nice advantage because there's very little traffic, obviously, and that really, hopefully, we can get ahead of schedule on some of the projects we have in the city. There is very detailed guidance on mass.gov about the requirements that all the contractors need to follow. We have received site-specific health and safety plans, or HASPs, that are specific to COVID-19 for Lord Overpass, for the garage, and for Streets F&G, that's on its way. We also require any contractors that are working in the city, if they're not going to provide a site-specific COVID-19 HASP, they can certify that they will follow the guidance that the governor has put out. I think if anyone has any questions, but I mean, essentially every morning when the workers arrive on site, they're supposed to arrive separately and not carpool. They have to certify that they've not been exposed to anyone who's symptomatic or who has been exposed to COVID-19, and that they themselves do not have any of the symptoms of fever, cough, etc. So I don't know if anyone has any specific questions, but I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, hearing none, I guess we're all set. Thank you, Natasha.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I need a motion to accept and place on file by Councilor Mercia, second by Councilor Maris. Thank you. 6.3, communication. Planning board recommendation. Oh, it's already done, yeah. 6.4, communication, accept resignation of Jeff Wilson from the Lowell Commission on Disability. Motion to accept and place on file by Councilor Conway, seconded by Councilor Chow. Any questions? 6.5, communication to appoint Mary Catherine Lemnitsky to the Board of Parks. Need a motion to adopt by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Elliott. Roll call.
Councilor Drinkwater.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Leahy.
Yes.
Councilor Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Noon.
Yes.
Councilor Rourke.
Yes.
Councilor Samaras.
Yes.
Councilor Chow.
Yes.
Councilor Conway.
Yes.
9 yes.
Okay, now we're on to 7.2. Vote to authorize city manager to accept and expend $1,125 from Massachusetts Boards of Library Commissioners. Permission to waive the full reading, second reading by title of motion. Commonwealth of Massachusetts, City of Lowell, and City Council vote authorizing the City of Lowell, acting through the Pollard Memorial Library Board of Trustees, and or the city manager to accept and expend funds from a grant from the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners. Motion by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Samaras. Roll call.
Councilor Drinkwater.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Leahy.
Yes.
Councilor Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Noon.
Yes.
Councilor Rourke.
Yes.
Councilor Samaras.
Yes.
Councilor Chow.
Yes.
Councilor Conway.
Yes.
9 yes.
Okay, 7.3, vote authorize city manager to accept $125,000 from Commonwealth of Massachusetts via the Executive Office of Labor and Workforce Development.
Mr.
Sure.
Mayor?
Yeah.
We were going to hold on that because we haven't received it yet in terms of accepting it. So we'll bring it forward as soon as we get notice that it's coming through.
Okay, thank you. 7.4, vote authorizing city manager to accept and expend $10,000 from the Mass State Historical Records Advisory Board and Mass General Court. Permission to waive the full reading, second reading by title. Commonwealth of Massachusetts, City of Lowell, and City Council vote authorizing city manager on behalf of the City of Lowell to accept and expend $10,000 in grant funding from Massachusetts State Historical Records Advisory Board and the Massachusetts General Court Veterans Heritage Grant Program. Motion by Councilor Drinkwater, seconded by Councilor Noon. Roll call.
Council Drinkwater.
Yes.
Council Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Leahy.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Noon.
Yes.
Council Rourke.
Yes.
Council Samaras.
Yes.
Council Chow.
Yes.
Council Conway.
Yes.
9 yeas.
7.5, vote authorizing city manager execute amendment number 2, Mass Department Transportation RMV lease. Waive full reading, second reading by title and motion. Commonwealth of Massachusetts, City of Lowell, and City Council vote authorizing the city manager to execute amendment 2 of the lease agreement for additional 2 years with the Massachusetts Department of Transportation Motor Vehicles Division, also known as the Registry of Motor Vehicles Division, RMV, in the building located at 77 Middlesex Street, Lowell. Motion by Councilor Drinkwater, seconded by Councilor Elliott. Roll call.
Council Drinkwater.
Yes.
Council Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Leahy.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Noon.
Yes.
Council Rourke.
Yes.
Council Samaras.
Yes.
Council Chow.
Yes.
Council Conway.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Okay, next we have resolutions. Resolution support. What's HD? HD 4935, moratorium on evictions and foreclosures during COVID-19 emergency. Permission to waive the full reading, second reading by title. Commonwealth of Massachusetts, City of Lowell, and City Council resolution. The City Council of the City of Lowell wishes to be recorded in support of HD 4935, an act providing a moratorium on evictions and foreclosures during the COVID-19 emergency. Motion to adopt by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Mercia. Roll call.
Could I ask you a question, Mr.
Sure,
Mayor?
Councilor Mercia.
All right. How do we get our signatures on this resolution? Do we have a plan for that?
Sure, Mr. Clerk.
We'll figure it out, Council. Maybe I'll do a postscript or something with your authority, but we'll figure it out to get it on there.
All righty. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Council Drinkwater.
Yes.
Council Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Leahy.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Noon.
Yes.
Council Rourke.
Yes.
Council Samaras.
Yes.
Council Chow.
Yes.
Council Conway.
Yes.
That's 9 yeas.
Okay. 9, no subcommittee or reports. Petitions, 1 claim, personal injury. Need a motion to refer to Law Department for a report and recommendation by Councilor Conway, seconded by Councilor Samaras.
Mr. Mayor. this is
Sure,
Rodney.
who's that? Sure, Councilor Elliott.
Rodney, I would like to make a motion that we bundle items 10.2 through 10.6.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, this is the second that motion.
Okay. Motion to bundle and refer items 10.2 to 10.6 to public hearing on April 28th, 2020 at 7 p.m. by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Noon. New singular wireless request permission to install small cell facility on existing poles at 319 Market Street, 405 Lawrence Street, 50 Oak Street, 60 Lafayette Street, and 878 Lakeview Ave. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. City Council motions. 11.2, Councilor Mercia. Request city manager find ways and means to have city vendors that are responsible for sending out property tax bill, excise bills, offer a grace period for payment during these difficult times. Seconded by?
Second. Councilor Noon.
Councilor Noon. Councilor Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I begin, Councilor Noon, his 11.3 and Councilor Elliott's 11.5, they all have similar motions. If you want to take them all together, that'd be fine. I don't know, maybe.
Mr. Mayor, I'd
Sure.
be happy to do that. This is Councilor Noon.
Okay, Councilor Elliott?
Rodney, I'm fine with it as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We all know that people all over the world are facing tough times through no fault of their own, but my concern is with the residents of the city of Lowell here. Many people are struggling with bills piling up and limited or no income in sight, yet the bills still multiply. Although I know that the city needs to function during these hard times, but we as a body and you, Madam Manager, as the leader, can offer compassion in times of uncertainty. And I ask that we contact the vendor or vendors whose job it is to go after late payment and forgive any interest and penalties during this pandemic. I know that we've decreased it from $30 to $15. I don't think that's good enough. Let us offer a grace period, just as my car insurance company did, with an update that states they will suspend all cancellations for non-payment from April 1st to June 1st. It further states that you will receive your policy for non-payment during this period, but we will also waive all fees for the late payment or insufficient funds. Just as the mortgage companies are offering deferred payment from anywhere from 3 to 6 months, just as the state has a 90-day deferment when you buy a car, just as some banks are eliminating penalties for early withdrawal from certificates of deposit, just as the registry of motor vehicles is extending license renewals for 2 months. Let us say, just like Lowell, who shows compassion too, provide flexibility for people unable to make payments on time. Let's work together and build a compassion and thoughtful solution. People are stressed enough. Let's not be cold and heartless. Let's help ease their burden. And that's my motion for this evening.
Thank you. Any comments?
I do. Sakari Chow.
Sure.
Yeah, Rodney Elliott.
Yeah.
This is Sakari Chow. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All these three motions are very important in this very, very difficult times for our residents. The grace period for the tax bill, excise tax bills, the parking in downtown situation, and the tax timeline for late fees and so forth. I think the residents they are doing all they can trying to survive through this economic crisis. And I know the city has gone over and beyond as well, but if we could sort of everybody give up a little bit just to make sure that we all kind of survive through these difficult times, that would be great. I am in support of all three motions. Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Elliott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I concur with Councilor Mercier. He hit on all the points during these times. businesses are closed, people are out of work. We see forgiveness from the federal government, the state government. There are delays. People don't have to file their taxes. And I happen to think on the local level we should follow along and try to do what we can to relieve any burden of people who they want to pay their bills, they want to go to work, but we can't. So I filed a motion on the parking ticketing downtown. I think during these times we have to relax those restrictions. People can't go to work, so I think all of us got many emails that people that normally would be off the streets and going to work during the day have no place to go. So I just think that we need to look at this, and I know the legislature passed a bill to allow municipalities to allow residents a 30-day grace period on property tax bills. I don't know about excise tax; those already went out. But I agree with Councilor Mercer that we've got to have a heart. We've got to be understanding and compassionate when it comes to people don't have the money to to pay the bills at this time. So thank you. I support the motion, and I presume we're going to get a report back at the next meeting. Delaying payment for a limited amount of time, I think that's the least that we can do. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Noon here.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We got a report on the city, budget or right now, and we as a city are doing great. We have $7.5 million free cash prior to the COVID-19. This COVID-19 hit a city, a state, a country, and the globe. Not just in the COVID-19 thing, but also economic and financial aspect of our resident life as well. So I would concur with all the speakers and all the, the councilor who make motions that the city should relax all those late fee, renewal of municipal license, and we should extend any appeal period of any citation, taxes, and fines, and payment of some sort that has to do with the city. Because what happened too is that the city closed to the public due to this COVID-19. So we also know that there are some low resident that don't have a means to use technology to communicate with the city, and therefore, all these motions, that 3 motions that are being filed, and maybe more along this line, that we should try to do what we can to help our residents in this time of crisis. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We'll refer this to the manager. I would just like to make one comment that we should take a look at this. We have to remember that we have financial obligations ourselves as a city. So I'm sure when it comes back from the manager's office, we'll take in consideration all of our obligations as city residents and as city government. So any other comments?
Mr. Mayor?
Sure.
Through you, we will come back with a full report for the council on all of these items. I just want to just stress that though the building's closed, we are open, so people can call us, people can email us, people can, in addition to, we did, I don't know whether I did announce this or not, but we did install a drop box, so if someone wants to drop off a payment, I'm not trying to drum up payments. I'm just saying, people who are used to walking things in, whether it's any type of filing, we're here. We collect it a few times a day. All the offices are open. So I just want the public to know that they can reach us in a number of ways. So thank you.
Thank you. So all those in favor of 11.2, 11.3, and 11.5, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay. 11.4, Councilor Noon. Request city manager and law department, due to COVID-19 crisis, consult with nonprofit housing organizations CTI, CVA, Merrimack Valley Housing Partnership in order to use Community Preservation Act for rental assistance programs. Seconded by
Second.
Councilor Mercier. Councilor Noon?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, the intent of CPA, the Community Preservation Act is for 4 areas. One of those areas is the affordable housing. And in time of crisis, I think that we should, use this opportunity to use this, money, a portion of it, of course, because there's 3 other areas we need to cover. I also understand too, Mr. Mayor, that, the Madam Manager is actually, trying to compile the 9 members of CPA, and that has yet to be selected, or maybe on the way to be selected, but due to the COVID-19. So I strongly feel that given the tough situation that we are in now, that maybe there's a way we can bypass, if we can. But if not, I just like to get a report, and maybe, one, we have the 9 members that send that report to the 9 members and to have the 9 members looked into it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
11-6, Councilor Chow, request city manager contact Comcast, Verizon, and other internet providers in the city to request or negotiate reduced fees and service charges during the COVID-19 emergency period. Seconded by?
Second, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Noon.
Councilor Noon. Councilor Chow?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To Madam Manager, the Department of Public Utilities has required that all utilities follow the no shut-off moratorium, which is a temporary prohibition activity rule. Many other businesses have followed this moratorium and announced that they will not shut off services for non-payment during this pandemic. At the same time, many people still find it difficult to pay other bills because of this economic crisis. The pandemic and stay-at-home order are making it very difficult for families to earn income. With everyone at home and children needing to do online classes, internet and data is imperative. And this places more burden on our low-income residents. I request that the city manager negotiate with Comcast and other internet cable providers which require licensing with the city to offer free or reduced fees and charges for their basic service during the period of COVID-19 economic crisis. This will help our low-income residents. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye. 11-7, Councilor Chow, request city manager incorporate the standardized COVID-19 information provided by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts into a comprehensive neighborhood report regarding COVID-19 cases. Seconded by?
Second.
Councilor Mercier. Councilor Chow?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and to Madam Manager. The city staff, from what I understand, Phil Jeffroy and Joanne Keegan with the Health Department have done a tremendous job in putting the city's COVID-19 data into neighborhood distribution graphs. I also look at the state's data to compare. This is what the state is saying. COVID-19 testing is carried out by private labs, hospitals, and other partners. The state's Department of Public Health has been working with these partners to improve the reporting data on race and ethnicity. Last week on Thursday, April 9, the Commonwealth, the state reporting on COVID-19 cases included data on race and ethnicity. I request that our city's reporting also include data on race ethnicity in order to better understand where and upon whom the burden of COVID-19 is falling, so as to better target the city's response, including educational materials, medical services, and more state and federal assistance if it is beyond the city's capabilities. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any announcements?
Yes, I just
I do,
have one,
go ahead.
Mr.
Sure,
Mayor.
Councilor Mercy and then Councilor Chow.
Okay, I'd just like to recognize the professional expertise of Maran Fernandez, our technical MIS Chief Information Officer. Every time we meet, he puts this conference call together, and I don't know how he does it, and I'm not good with this stuff, but he guides you very well. So I think he deserves a little bit of credit here. Thank you.
Councilor Chow?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to make a brief comment. Lowell is being very diversity, and we celebrate all cultures. And I just want to let all the residents of Lowell know today, Tuesday, April 14th, is the beginning of the Cambodian New Year. It is celebrated for 3 days. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and I want to wish everyone in the city a happy New Year to all the Southeast Asian residents in the city and everybody who celebrate with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I want to know, what is it, the year of the what?
It's the year of the rat, madam.
The year of the what?
The rat.
It's hard to imagine, but it's a good luck year.
Oh, no.
All right. Thank you, everybody. A good meeting. Need a motion to adjourn by Councilor Samaras, seconded by Councilor Conway. Thank you.
Thank you. Great job.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.